Good evening and welcome to the COVID-19 update on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. Here are some of the highlights this hour. Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 says over 800 health workers infected with the virus, as Lagos State government says reopening religious gatherings is yet to be decided. The future of the Nigerian youth under focus as we look at the role of the NYSC on the COVID-19 pandemic. And UK MPs return to Westminster following a break in May to decide how to legislate in a pandemic. And the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, was established in 1973, a scheme set up by the Nigerian government to involve Nigerian graduates in nation building and the development of the country. It is also meant to forge national unity among Nigerian youth, irrespective of their state of origin. Recently, there has been divergent views on whether the scheme should remain or be scrapped, based on hostility meted to Corps members in the northern region due to insecurity. But today, COVID-19 appears to be another hostility, with young people unable to participate in the 3 weeks camp and closing moment of the service. This evening, we look at how COVID-19, which has come to stay for some time, impacts the compulsory NYSC scheme. And figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, puts the total number of confirmed cases in the country at 10,578. 3,122 patients have been discharged and the death toll at 299. The center confirmed 416 new cases and 12 deaths recorded in Nigeria in 24 hours. And this is in 19 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. Regional figures show Lagos in the southwest with the highest number of cases at 5,135, followed by Kano in the northwest with 958 cases. The FCT in the north central region maintains the third highest tally in the country with 574 cases. In the northeast, Borno is leading with 288, Edo in the south-south with 325 cases, and Ebonyi in the southeast with 40 cases. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari today welcomed the African Development Bank AFDB President, Professor Akinwumi Adesina, to the presidential villa. The visit may not be unconnected to his running battle to retain his seat for another term as AFDB President. The safety protocols were seen adopted by other ministers who were present at the villa, to include the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Foreign Affairs Minister, the advisor to the president on media and publicity, among others. The United States is putting pressure on the board of the AFDB to conduct an independent investigation on Professor Adesina, even though he has been cleared following an internal report by the Ethics Committee. And the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 continued its daily briefing today in Abuja, the nation's capital. The chairman, Mr. Boss Mustafa, leading the briefing, says that a lot of Nigerians are still not complying with the set guidelines by the NCDC, calling it a risky development. He also cites a viral social media picture showing children wearing discarded personal protective equipment, PPEs.
It is not certain if the photograph was taken in Nigeria, but significantly, that photograph represents a dangerous development. It underscores the need for more risk communication, community engagement, and diligence in the disposal of used PPEs on the part of our frontline workers and the administrators. It also underscores the need to broaden the theme and the messages in our communication strategy. Above all, the photograph has left us to imagine what the impact would be if schools were to open and they attended school after being exposed so dangerously. Those two children represent a clear danger to themselves, family, and the immediate community. While we take remedial measures to reach out to medical institutions on this, I want to use this opportunity to call on all our health authorities to make sure that waste disposal is done in such a way that would not create opportunities for increasing the chances of spreading the virus.
For the health minister, government and its relevant agencies are making progress with the drugs trial with the World Health Organization.
Weeks ago, I announced that Nigeria would participate in the COVID-19 drug trial, which the World Health Organization was leading, but partly suspended. After consultation with top Nigerian scientists of the Ministerial Expert Advisory Committee, I am advised that Nigeria has something to add to the body of knowledge around these trials, and I have therefore approved continuation of the trial as recommended under strong precautionary conditions to be built into them. The leadership of the ministry also had the first comprehensive briefing with the Ministerial Advisory Panel of Experts yesterday, led by the foremost virologist, Professor Oyewale Tobori, and we received a series of very useful advisories that will be discussed and shared with heads of our agencies and departments of the ministry. COVID-19 has long since become a global phenomenon affecting nearly all states of the world, and all nations are working together. And I urge all state authorities in Nigeria to accept the reality and also work with each other and the federal government and play their role in the strategy to keep our people safe. This includes decentralization that requires making a minimum of 300 isolation beds ready so that the national health system does not run out of COVID-19 bed spaces.
The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Chikwe Hekwazu, raises alarm over the number of health workers infected in the country. It says they are over 800.
At the moment, 75% of people have an unknown source of their illness. But what does this really mean? It means that community transmission is happening. It means that you cannot link your exposure to one particular person or one event. And this is normal of a respiratory virus for which 80% of people are asymptomatic. We've deployed 37 rapid response teams with over 450 people that have left their homes for weeks on end, supporting the response across the country. These are not just numbers. They are people that have left their own families and are working hard to support the response and make sure things get better. We've had 812 healthcare workers infected. They're not just numbers. 29 of these work for the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. There are people I know that have families, wives, children. About 8 of them right now are in the Do Treatment Center. So they're not just numbers, they are people, and they matter, and we must remember.
The National Youth Service Corps in Lagos is handing over discharge certificates to the 2019 Batch B scheme, one of the National Service to 2020 Corps members who have fulfilled the one-year compulsory service. For the first time, the exercise, which would normally be in the orientation camp with colourful parade, match passes now in local government secretariats to allow for crowd management. Our correspondent, Amy John Mekwa, reports.
You're not about to see hundreds of Corps members engaged in a march past at the orientation camp, which is the usual practice. But the venue of this year's handover of certificates to deserving Corps members is the local government secretariats in Lagos State. In line with the social distancing protocol, the Corps members are wearing their face masks, hand gloves, and they have this to say about this new mode of passing out.
I feel indifferent about it, anyways. I would have actually preferred the normal parade, but due to the COVID-19, it's okay the way it is.
After going through the protocols, they are handed over their certificate, a proof that they have served their fatherland for 1 year. For the officials, this is for safety and in support of laid-down measures.
For those of them that can't afford hand gloves, there is water outside where they wash their hands and again sanitize before they are attended to by the certificate officers. We need to do this because it's important that we secure them. Having stayed here for 1 year serving their fatherland, it will be very precarious for them to fall victim of COVID-19 at the tail end of their national service. So we are very mindful of that. Our core members are very dear to us, and we are ready to make every sacrifice to ensure that we'll return them back to their parents healthy and hearty.
The exercise holds in local government secretariats across the state and ends on Friday, June the 5th, 2020. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
Well, for more on that, Dr. Yeni Kende, a consultant family physician, director of clinical service training, Ifako Ijai General Hospital, joins us here in Lagos. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Seeing that report, and as one who has served under the NYSC, what do you make of, the NYSC operating under a pandemic like COVID-19?
Wow, thank you very much. Well, it's clear that, we've suspended any biometric registration and community development services. And there's definitely going to be a backlog of the graduates, people that recently graduated and coming into the NYSC program. Now it's going to be difficult to mobilize people and also contain the crowd for that set of people. Now, what we enjoyed back then during the NYSC period, these people didn't have the experience. Like just graduated a few weeks back, there was no parade. They're just giving their certificates and all that. So all those experiences, the community services, the exposure, they couldn't enjoy that and all that, just in order to curtail this pandemic.
And we recently heard from the DG, the remaining activities of orientation course will continue as soon as the situation improves. This is also something we're seeing as, the government is easing lockdown with several other measures, and many people are wondering, we're still having more cases, yet we're having this relaxation of lockdown. What's your take on what the PTF is telling us today?
It may be difficult, but if they're going to do that, probably they're going to have skip the orientation camps and have a direct admission into the place of primary assignments through online registrations and all that. So having that orientation camp is going to be very, very difficult to control. In case you are going to reduce the number of core members you're going to mobilize, and is that possible as regards the backlog of people that need to mobilize into the system and all that?
As a health worker, are you scared by the number of health workers contracting COVID-19 in Nigeria?
Definitely, yes. Yes, there's no way you can, say you're not scared because you're at the forefront. You're there, you know what it is, you see what is going on. You see cases that look like suspected cases. You wait for the test to go through the normal process. You await the test, and if it comes out positive or negative, there are measures you need to take in case you need to go for isolation, you need to go for contact tracing to your family members, and also definitely you will be afraid.
So how frequent do perhaps yourself and your other colleagues go for testing, seeing as you're on the front line, or how regular should it be?
Okay, this test doesn't give you a clean bill of health. It's more or less a retrospective diagnosis thing. So if you have a test today, it's based on what your exposure in the last few weeks. So basically what we do, we make sure that we don't expose ourselves, make sure we are done and doffing our PPEs properly, the face masks, social distancing, and peradventure, we come in contact with a suspected case and all that comes out positive. We do our contact tracing and we go for a test.
All right, we'd like to thank you and hope that you continue to stay safe. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Yeni Kende, a consultant family physician, on the program. Still to come on our COVID-19 update, we take a look at the global outlook of the pandemic response. Do join us again. Welcome back. Even though the Presidential Task Force has given the directive on reopening religious places, the Lagos State government appears undecided on the mode or the exact time it will start in Lagos. The State Commissioner for Home Affairs, Mr. Anyofiu Elegushi, told Channels Television today that the state is uncomfortable with reopening because of crowd control, but the one to make the final decision is the governor of Lagos State.
Before the pronouncement, we are meeting, continuously with the religious leaders, with Safety Commission, discussing the possibility, which was ruled out at our last meeting. The issue of reopening cannot even come in place now, looking at the number accredited to Lagos in terms of affected patients in the state, in the country. So we ruled out the possibility of reopening. But now that the federal government made a pronouncement, as I said earlier, it is now left to the incident commander, Mr. Governor, to give further directives. But I believe that the figure, the increasing figure, is a major concern to government and also to the religious leaders.
Well, Dr. Tosi Taiwo, GP Registrar, Queen Elizabeth Hospital, King's Lynn, joins us right now via Skype. Hello, Doctor. Good to see you. First, tell us about where you are. We understand that the UK has gone beyond the first peak of COVID-19, has seen a decline in cases. But how are people responding to perhaps some of the strategies of government with opening up the economy?
Thank you for having me. So in the UK, it's more a mixed response. I live in east of England, an area called Norfolk. So there are quite a number of beaches where I live, and people have flocked to the beaches in droves. They have tried to maintain some form of social distances, but the pictures we've seen in the papers haven't been too promising. Regarding schools, more than 50% of families, myself including, we didn't feel comfortable sending our children to school. It's just been a mixed response, I'd say, to the government's plans. What we are waiting to see is further steps to be taken and to give us a clear picture as to what they want to do regarding the educational system and opening things like the hospitality business.
Now, the UK published a report into BAME COVID-19 deaths, confirming that Black, Asian and minority ethnic people in the UK are more likely than others to die of COVID-19. Are you scared by that report?
Well, I would say I'm probably more alert and anxious rather than scared. It's something we kind of have known for the last, as medical doctors and being a Black ethnic minority myself, it's something we have known for the last 2 months, more than likely, because it first, rumors first started in initial statistics we saw in March in America as well. So it's something we've taken into consideration. So I'd say I'm more alert rather than scared. I'm trying to make sure that I take all precautions, making sure my immunity is boosted in all forms and ways that I can.
Do you think government has been negligent in any way?
Negligent, probably not. Slow, maybe, but the word negligence, I wouldn't like to throw that around lightly, because remember, it's a novel disease. Everybody's response has been more than slow, because nobody really knows. It's still an evolving science. Anything people are publishing right now are still theories. It's the kind of thing we're going to look back at in 2 years' time and produce more retrospective science.
All right, what's your take? Nigeria's entered its advancement into the phase 2 ease of lockdown protocol. It's generating lots of reactions. Some religious places will start opening, still limited bans and gathering public. But how do you think we're balancing things, seeing as, this is a virus that we need to get used to living with?
It's interesting. I would say, to be very honest with you, I'm not too conversant with the steps, 100% of the steps. I know there is something about the curfew being put in between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. But I think individual states are taking each step separately. Lagos seems to be very proactive from what I can hear. More than likely, most of the information I get is from Lagos. And I think they are taking all the proactive steps necessary. As to how things will turn out, I really can't say.
Perhaps finally, as part of the next phase, some people are wondering if we see a spike in more cases in Nigeria, for example, should government take another look at perhaps some of the measures we're putting in place. But more important is the video and perhaps telephone consultations where appropriate for patients. We know that in the UK where you are, this is something that is ongoing, especially even more in the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you think Nigerian hospitals can key into that?
No, that's a very good question. I mean, like you said, in the United Kingdom, it's something we initially had started doing prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has become even ever more necessary, phone triaging and video consultation. Of interest, though, is that actually in Nigeria, there are actually health tech companies that have actually pioneered this and have started to look. We've started hearing rumors of things coming out. I think there's a company called Telemedics that has started something like that, and they are quite promising and interesting. And there's also Hudibia and Helium Health. So over in our close caucus groups over here in the United Kingdom, we have some suggestions have been put forward as to how hospitals can go. But I think the way of health tech will be through web apps, phone applications like we do here, where you can log in and have a video consultation or a phone consultation. One thing, though, will be that more medical staff will need to be trained, because over here we have to get online webinars as to how we train, so you can modulate and change your questioning style for patients that you're not seeing physically. So yeah, it is promising. Things like telemedics are quite a good thing coming up.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Tosin Taiwo, GP Registrar, Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Kings and Lynn, Norfolk. Thank you for joining us. Continue to stay safe.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Over in the UK, the House of Commons MPs voted on government's proposal for discontinuing virtual parliament. The government won 261 votes to 163. Their proposal states that MPs should be physically in parliament in order to participate.
Mexico has become the 7th country to have recorded more than 10,000 COVID-19 related deaths. A grim milestone was reached as millions returned to work across the country after some quarantine restrictions were lifted. It's a similar situation in India, where despite infections still going up, more and more businesses are starting to open up. India has registered a record daily spike with 8,392 new infections. Starting from June 8, restaurants, hotels, shopping centers, and places of worship will be allowed to reopen in many areas in the first stage of a 3-phase plan. Meanwhile, India's government has approved antiviral drug remdesivir for emergency use in treating COVID-19 patients. Remdesivir is the first drug to show improvement in COVID-19 patients in formal clinical trials. Senegal has postponed the restart of schools until further notice after several teachers tested positive for the coronavirus.
But if China continues down this
And in the United Kingdom, members of parliament have returned to Westminster following a scheduled break at the end of May. The government is looking at ways to relax the 14-day quarantine rules for people entering the country over the coming months. In the meantime, a Public Health England's report has confirmed that Black, Asian and minority ethnic people in the UK are more likely than others to die from the COVID-19.
So wear a mask on your face, not on your chin, as it has no value under your chin. A message from the NCDC and the PTF. You can find also the latest guide on the NCDC website. The centre continues to work closely with states, setting up treatment centres, training health workers to manage COVID-19 patient recovery. The World Health Organization's website also have live updates on the global response to the COVID-19 strategy. It guides the public health response at both national, subnational levels, including practical guidance for strategic action. Channelstv.com is our website. It has more updates. You can find the latest on the pandemic in Nigeria, across the world, plus other stories. And that's our program at this time. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.